Cancel culture, a modern phenomenon where individuals, often celebrities or public figures, are collectively boycotted, shamed, or deplatformed on social media for behaviour or speech deemed offensive or unacceptable. That is what cancel culture means, but I feel like it is getting too out of hand sometimes. Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Colada, and today we're going to be watching Cancel Culture Sucks by a dear friend of the channel, Link Riley. Also, don't mind me, I've been ill for about a week, and I'm slowly recovering. I'm not 100% yet, so just bear with me. So sit back, grab your favourite monster, and let's watch the video.
Who defines what funny is? This type.
Hello. I did not expect. As you can see, I'm still ill, but as I was saying, it just came out of nowhere. It reminds me of like those Vsauce videos, like those old ones where Vsauce came out of nowhere. He pops up and goes, "Hey Vsauce, Michael here." I don't know why he does it.
The type of thing is why my generation is one of the worst generations ever, and that is cancel culture.
Okay, so I don't know, Gen Z, our generation, we're quite generous actually with ours. I feel like as of now we're escaping kind of the danger zone, especially with all the newer stuff that's happening with our government. So I feel like we are quite lucky, but I feel like, you know, anywhere else, so if you're like, you know, if you're turning 17 or 16 or 15 this year, you might be kind of screwed.
G'day legends, Link from Jaded Pulse, and today we're going to talk about cancel culture. Specifically in Australia. Free speech is just not really a thing anymore in Australia.
Australia, alright then. If you guys don't know, I'm British, so I'm from New Zealand.
On the topic of Australia, Happy Australia Day, that was yesterday.
Yeah, actually, me and Nick Riley went on a call the other day. He talked about Happy Australian Day, or whatever it's really called. I can't remember that. Whatever it is, I don't know. I can't even speak. I'm still ill. But basically, they celebrate Australia. Yeah, we don't have that, and it's probably for the best.
As I'm recording this video, the government continues to become more and more woke and progressive. The freedom of speech that we have in Australia is just getting smaller and smaller.
True.
And it sucks. I suppose the biggest thing is the social media ban currently.
Kids under 16.
Specifically for
We have that as well, but I think for us, I think it's called the Child Protective Security thing. I don't know what it's called, but we're limited on what we can search for stuff or people under 18. So, like for example, we can't search up, you know, on the hub anymore, and I don't care about that, to be fair. So we can't do that. We can't even listen to, you know, certain music anymore. Hence why I use VPNs to listen to all my music again, because they ban majority of the music I listen to, which is a joke. And I know for people under 16 on TikTok, they're limited to like under an hour. They can only watch TikTok for an hour, which fair. At the same time, it's just kind of bad, you know?
comedians, someone who does a little bit of stand-up comedy myself, cancel culture is either our
To be fair though, Link Riley, you are a funny lad, to be fair.
best friend or our biggest enemy. All it takes is one person to be offended and you're done. But who defines
True.
what's offensive and what's not? Who defines what you can and cannot say? Who defines what you can and cannot laugh at? First example is me. People have tried to attempt to cancel me before, and it's actually quite funny. What the fuck is that moth doing? Get the fuck out of here! Shit! I was gonna do a show.
I should not be laughing at this. I shouldn't be laughing at this. Why am I laughing at this?
Once
Oh,
where
God.
I made a joke about someone who I used to know. Someone I used to date, to be more specifically. For clarification, the joke I was going to make, I was going to say, I don't know what she's done more. Have her hair dyed, or have her legs spread by a different guy.
What the fuck? Oh my god. Link, you're kidding me here. I'm gonna die before I edit this video.
It's really mean, but it's actually quite funny. Before that person says, yeah, it's not funny, a lot of people laughed when I told that joke at the few shows that I did. Fuck you. Now that
It is quite funny, to be fair. Fair enough.
one person was able to laugh about jokes about Muslims, the stolen generation, you know, all these horrible things that killed billions of people. The Holocaust is another prime example.
All of which you're allowed to make jokes about.
Just because you don't find it funny doesn't mean others won't. But
True. I remember on a certain Plant vs Zombies fusion video, I can't remember which one, but I think it was during one of the night levels. There's this zombie called the Jack in the Box zombie, and when he comes to a certain distance, he explodes. And I called him the Kamikaze zombie. And I think during October or November in Manchester, there was this person who I'm pretty sure was a Muslim, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. But he looked like a Muslim, and he was gonna like blow up this synagogue right in Manchester, and I basically made a joke saying, "Oh, well, there's Kamikaze Zombie. It actually happened in Manchester recently," and some people didn't like that joke. And you know what? Fair enough if you don't like that joke, but I wasn't doing it to attack Muslim people. I was doing it for a joke, and it all depends on the purpose of delivery. And I actually talked about this in my DA Games allegation video. It all depends on the purpose of delivery. Am I a racist? No. I just make a joke about something, and if other people find it offensive, that's fine, but some people do find it funny.
For some hypocritical reason, if I was to make a joke about that person, that's where it drew the line. First of all, you're a hypocritical fuckwit. Second of all, like I said, who defines what funny is? Why is it okay for you to laugh at mass murder?
I feel like I'm gonna regret making this video already. I don't know why. This is something I don't do. I don't talk about cancel culture or any of this stuff because it's a huge risk for me, because I know a lot of people watch my videos and then they say, "Oh God, Mr. Carr is a bad person," and I'm just being modest. A lot of people, are scared to speak up anymore. They only say this type of stuff in private. They don't actually say this stuff publicly because they're scared. So for me to speak up about it is kind of big for me, but I'm kind of regretting it at the same time.
Hearings of heaps of people that died, but when it's personal, it's about you. That's when it's not allowed to be said.
True. So if you make a Nazi joke towards a German person, right, or not really towards a German person, or to the whole German community, right, they might find it offensive, or they might laugh at it, right. Let's just say, okay, actually, let's just change the subject, right. Let's just say you make a joke about something towards a person, and they laugh about it, but you make a joke towards them, they won't laugh about it and find it, offensive. It kind of makes no sense. It doesn't there's a line that draws, and I think Ryan makes a good example of that.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
But we see these types of people everywhere now. More in Australia now that Trump got elected, and that bollocks is very quickly declining. Well done, President Trump. My next example, I suppose, would be Marty Sheargold. Marty Sheargold was a radio comedian. I found him pretty funny myself. Didn't really listen to him all that much. I don't really listen to the radio that much.
Radio music sucks.
Although I can't really complain, Triple M's pretty good. Now
we have a radio downstairs, and honestly, it's the same song over and over again. I probably heard the same Harry Styles song about at least 8 times. It gets boring.
There's a point in one episode or one day on the radio, in a sports news segment, the topic turned to the Matildas, the women's soccer Australian team, who get praised way too much. They're nowhere near as good as everyone says they are. It's ridiculous. I could go on about how overrated the Matildas are forever, and I probably will in this video. Anyway, he made a joke about the Matildas.
You know what? I don't know. Women's football, I respect, but I don't care about it, I don't watch it, but I respect it, because we're giving women a chance to play football, something that, we haven't even taken into consideration for years, and we're finally letting them play football, and it is fair. The only Australian woman that I know is Sam Kerr, and that's literally about it. I don't know any other women people. Australian women team are quite good, but subjectively, they do get glazed quite a lot. Then again, football, every team gets glazed a lot. If it's Real Madrid, Man City, Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, Barcelona, Juventus, all these big clubs get glazed so much, and it's for the right reason. It depends on how many trophies you won, what stuff you accomplish in life, and I know for the Australian women's team, they're doing quite a lot. To be fair, I think they won the most World Cups, but I could be wrong. I could be entirely wrong there.
that so many people found offensive and disgusting, like he'd started World War III over a joke. G'day legends, me again. I guess the point here I'm trying to make is that Marty got cancelled for making fun of women. But if the roles were switched and there was a female comedian making fun of the Australian Socceroos, the male Australian soccer team, she wouldn't have got cancelled. She would have been...
True, if the roles were switched, that's kind of a big thing, you know. It kind of is, you know. Like, for example, if a black person makes a racist joke to a white person, it isn't considered racist, but if a white person makes a joke towards a black person, it is considered racist. I think it all depends on the history, you know. Because with black people, obviously, in their history, they were slaves, and they weren't really looked up towards people, you know. Like, no one cared about black people around that time. And with women, you know, they were kind of slaves as well, you know. They were, you know, in the olden days, they weren't looked as, you know, this big people, you know, like these big, strong leaders. The only person that was actually like a big, strong leader was Queen Elizabeth I, because she literally saved the UK from basically no money, basically. You know, she basically made the biggest empire that, you know, any country has ever seen, even bigger than the Spanish Empire. So it makes sense why women don't really get looked up to back in the olden days, because they were considered as housewives. You know, they did the cleaning, they looked after the children, while the men, they obviously, you know, they made the money, they brought the income in, and they didn't get women didn't get respected until the 40s, actually, during World War II, when there were no men to make bullets or uniforms for soldiers. That's when the women stepped in and helped make bullets and made, you know, uniform for soldiers. And that's when, you know, after World War II was finished, that's when men can take into consideration that women are actually really useful and helpful. And that's why, you know, women nowadays are more appraised for what they've done. So it all depends on the history with black people and women as well. Obviously, both had a really bad history in time, but that's why it's quite offensive. While, you know, white males, they obviously were considered as, you know, the hierarchy people, the royalty people. But he does make a fair example, you know. If, you know, the roles were switched, no one would look at it. And it is kind of true. I feel like there should be a gap between racism, you know. I feel like if a black person makes jokes towards a white person, then it should be racist. And if a white person makes a joke towards black people, it should be racist as well, you know. There should be some equality there.
Praised for it. And there's a lot of examples where if the roles were switched, it'd be absolutely ridiculous or it'd be absolutely fine. Where if it's women saying it, it's fine, but if it's men saying it, it's wrong. There's no fairness in that at all. He said that watching the Matildas play is like watching... that it's like watching... that it's like...
Calm down, that link.
watching a heap of Year 10 girls play.
You know what they remind me of? Year 10 girls. Now, I'm sorry to undermine the whole sport, but that's what I think of it, so you can stick it up your ass.
So we're playing in the She Believes Cup.
Oh, she believes in what? It better be men!
We had a bit of runway to improve before that comes around.
The Asian Cup. I'd rather hammer a nail through the head of my watch that. Got any men's sport?
Yeah, I do.
But honestly...
Fair. I don't know what to say about that, you know. Honestly, I've seen the women play football. I don't know how to say it, you know. They are bad, but they're also quite talented at the same time, you know.
A heap of Year 10 girls would probably beat the Matildas.
Obviously, that's a joke. Chill out.
Marty made comments that were widely seen as dismissive and sexist towards the Matildas and women's sport. In a way many people found disrespectful. Have a shout about it, you fucking sucks. He also joked about men's sport being better. Listen. Before you start typing your comments saying that I'm a misogynist, unfortunately it's just a well-known fact that men's sport is more interesting than women's sport. More people...
True. I will admit on that. And that's not me being sexist, that is actually generally true.
watch men's sport than people watch women's sport. But it's not like they can't access it. They most certainly can watch the women's sport, but they choose to watch the men's sport because it's more interesting. It's got no...
True. That is actually really true. As a Manchester City fan, I would rather watch the men's sports any day of the week than watch the women's sport. And I I barely know any women, Manchester City women women as well. I know Alex Greenwood. That's about it, really. I can't remember any other on the top of my head. But when it comes to the men's team, I know basically, all the men's team. Trafford, Donnarumma, and off the bad start there. Vico Lewis, Kovacic, Kusanov, Johnny Stones, Ruben Diaz, Gavardio, Antnori. I just named the goalkeepers and defenders, and I haven't even taken into consideration the DMs, the strikers, the centre midfield. I haven't taken into consideration them. And because I would rather watch the men's sports over the women's sports. It's true, to be fair. I mean, I can easily access to watch the women's sports, but I don't because I would rather watch the men's team.
Nothing to do with gender, and it's got nothing to do with the wage gap. That thing's a myth. Like, it's been proven so many times. Once the audio clip hit social media, the reaction was huge. Huge? That's not a fucking word. Lots of people, including fans, athletes, and even Australia's Prime Minister at the time, fuck off Albanese. That's another thing. Albanese absolutely glazes the Matildas. He cares more about them than pretty much the entire country. Although the only good thing about Albanese is he goes for the Hawks. Go the Hawks, Albo. Go the Hawks. For those of you who don't know, the Hawks is an Australian football team. It's the best team. If anyone tells you different, they're fucking stupid. Called the comments offensive and unnecessary. If there's any form of joke or comment that's said that would make people with a sense of humour like me smile, that's then seen by Albanese as offensive and hurtful. I don't know what the fuck that was. I'll be completely honest with you. Hello. Hi, darling. Yeah, so if
It's he called his girlfriend midway through the video.
I make a racist joke, does that make me a racist?
Yeah, I don't know. Depends on the context. I don't know. It's too early for this. I'm still half asleep.
Thanks, that didn't help me at all. Right, well, she was no help at all.
What just happened? What just happened in the span of 20 seconds?
But the answer's no. Just because I make jokes, it doesn't make me a homophobe, a racist, any of that stuff.
In my GA Games allegation video that I made, right, in my newest one, of course, I talked about how Will Ryan made racist jokes, and I said that it makes him a racist, but it's not illegal unless, it's towards, a race or religion to harm them. So let's just say if Will Ryan, DA Games, makes a joke towards a race or religion, that's considered as harmful or harassment. It's offensive to do it. Doing it outside of that stuff, like doing it in public, not public, in private, sorry, towards friends or, by message towards friends, and they find it funny, it does make you a racist, but it isn't illegal, And I don't know, it's weird because, like, obviously I do make those jokes to some extent. Like, I don't go out, I don't say the N word, I don't do that stuff, or I don't make, these jokes anymore. Like, the best I would say is are you calling me black? Or what are you saying? That's the farthest I would go, And I do laugh at people making these jokes, but at the same time, it all depends on who you are as well. Like, if you don't like these jokes, that is fine. But some people do like those jokes, and that's that, It shouldn't matter. If you don't like those jokes, that's fine. Just don't listen to the people who make these jokes.
Just because I make jokes about it. Anyone who genuinely knows me knows that I hate everyone. Anyway, Marty lost his
Hate me?
job entirely just because of one little joke he made. Words coming out of his mouth.
The people could have just chosen to not listen to.
Or just moved on from. Because at the end of the day, it's just a joke. And people really do need to chill out. Nothing seems to be
Oh, Jesus Christ. It all depends on the purpose of delivery, Are you doing those jokes to offend people? Or are you doing those jokes for comedy reasons, For comedy reasons, if you're doing it publicly, it can be quite controversial, because black people could see it, or women can see it, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't like this person. Let's cancel him." Making it a joke could basically mean the end of your life, basically. Like just one simple joke can ruin your entire career, or it could make you go down a bad path. And it's best that you just be careful with what you say. It really is just be careful. And I'm sorry that I pause on such a sticky image of you, Riley.
Funny anymore in Australia. Man, we used to be the lucky country. We were the country with the best sense of humour. The sense of humour that no one gave a fuck about. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Another huge...
True, Australia was a really funny country, and now it's kind of gone downhill with a lot of stuff. I'm not saying that Australia is a bad country anymore, but it's still an amazing country. Like, it's one of the few countries that I would love to go and visit. Not for the bugs.
Example is someone I've actually talked about on the channel before. Isaac Butterfield, the most controversial comedian in Australia. And the funniest one. Because unlike most modern Australian comedics, he pushes boundaries. And that's not to say...
It is quite bad if you push boundaries quite a bit, but it also makes you very brave at the same time. Like, I know this one YouTuber named Ethan, and... Is it Ethan? I don't really know. Ethan with like 3 N's at the end, But he makes jokes, and he says stuff that, gets, it's quite cancel cultural, And he doesn't get cancelled because he's being honest. He's telling the truth, And I know he's been banned on TikTok at least 8 times, so it kind of says a lot. But again, he doesn't get cancelled because he's a funny person. He speaks out, and it's the same with like Road to Shore or Harry from the Sidemen. He makes all these jokes, but he doesn't get cancelled because he's probably out there as one of the most famous person to not get cancelled. Like, he just can't get cancelled no matter how much you try.
Safe comics aren't funny.
Actually, that's exactly what it is.
Take someone like Carl Barron, for example. Yes, he's funny, but he's telling the same jokes, and it's getting old. Isaac Butterfield's one of Australia's most controversial comedians, loved by fans, slammed by critics, and constantly at the centre of cancel culture debate. But has he really been cancelled? Because cancellation seems to boost everything up for him. As it did with me. Over the years, Isaac has made jokes and comments targeting groups like women, why did women have to be the first one? Like women, LGBTQ people, vegans, activists, and people with disabilities. Supporters say it's just comedy, cause it is, and that people are too sensitive.
They are.
Critics say his jokes punch...
Nowadays, people do get quite sensitive to jokes. Like, as for me, as a person with autism and ADHD, when people make jokes about, me having autism or ADHD, I find it funny. Like, I actually really find when people make jokes and, about my autism and ADHD, like when I do something stupid and someone says, "Oh, you're just fucking autistic," and I'm like, I know. Like, I laugh about it because it's just generally funny because it is true. I'm stupid because I am autistic.
Down and cross into harassment. Critics are unemployed fuckwits.
True, critics are the worst thing ever. Oh, I actually hate these type of people. I really do. They're the worst. Oh,
Clips
okay.
of his jokes regularly go viral, and so does the backlash. Online campaigns have called for venues to drop his shows, sponsors to cut ties, and platforms to demonetize his content. Isaac has publicly claimed that YouTube has demonetized or restricted some of his videos because of their content. He's framed this as proof that big platforms silence comedians who don't follow progressive politics. And that's very on point. The left-wing politics have 100% taken over Australia. And now if we do not agree with their ideologies, say for example, this video, where I talk about how there is only 2 genders.
Can't believe we have to say that in the Big 26.
Supposed to be evolving people, not devolving. Where if you do...
It's weird with that. It's really weird. As a asexual person myself, a person that doesn't really find sex interesting, scientifically, there are only 2 genders. But nowadays, there are more genders, and I don't understand everything, Like, I do know recently that some of my friends, or older friends, are trans people, and I don't care. Simply, I just don't care. Because the way I see it, as long as you're happy, doesn't really matter. If you're happy, I'm happy. You know, it's like the thing with like me being friends with someone. If you're chill with me, I'm chill with you. You know, it's a two-way streak. So if someone's confident of being a trans person, or if someone's being gay or lesbian, doesn't really matter. You know, if you're happy, it shouldn't even matter. And with the gender stuff, I don't understand that. Because I had never really looked into that type of stuff before, and I'm really confused with the gender stuff. Like I generally just thought they were just male, female, gay, lesbian, trans, bisexual, asexual, and then you got all this other stuff like pansexual, herbivores. I don't know. Like you can see, I just don't know because I just don't understand this stuff, and I don't understand the other genders because scientifically and controversially, there are only two genders. Those are the two main genders. Male and female, but there are more now, and I just don't understand that. The way I see it, again, if you're happy, shouldn't matter. But at the same time, scientifically and subjectively, there are only two genders. And again, like I said, if that makes you happy, if you want to be something else, that's completely fine. As long as you're happy, I'm happy, shouldn't matter. We should live in a world with peace and all this other peaceful shit. I don't really know. I don't know what I'm even saying because I just don't understand this stuff very well.
Not agree with anything they say. You are cancelled, slammed, slurred, all these beautiful things. In fact, a lot of it actually happened yesterday while I was working. I got called white supremacist, racist, land stealer, all these things. And you know why? Because of my skin colour. Yeah, I don't think that's something I can control. And it's just another one of those things where if the roles were switched, I'd be a racist if I said those sorts of things to people of darker skin tone than me. Like if I was to say slurs to someone who is darker than me, I would be called a racist. And you know what? Fair enough, because that is racist. But why is it not racist when they say slurs to me? When did it become okay?
That's what I said previously, I feel like there should be a line, if black people make jokes towards white people, should be racist. If white people make jokes to black people, should be racist. There should be a line. It should, just be that the case, racism for both sides, but it isn't, and it's kind of unfair, especially for the white people, because white people out there do get bullied by black people. I would admit there are. I've seen it happen before on social media and even on the news, especially with that one person. I don't really know the full story, but like this black person stabbed a white Ukrainian woman to death on a train. I think it was in America, not a few months ago, like back in last year, and that made a big debate as well. So I feel like there should be a line with. I don't think that's even racism as well. I think that's just unfair, but there should just be a line with with white people making jokes towards black people and black people making jokes towards white people. It should be racist either way for both, and with black people making jokes towards white people, there isn't really a line, and I don't think there's even a law about it being racist. Because I don't think there is a way of you even saying it. Like I don't think there's even. I don't know how to describe it. It's really weird. It is really weird, but I do understand what he's trying to say though.
Okay to be racist towards white people. These left-wing ideologies are either what can make or break your life. People are scared now of saying anything that will remotely, even slightly offend these.
That is true. People, like I said at the start of the video, people are scared to speak up anymore, and it is true. It's quite sad because public speech can go either ways. It can make you feel like you're appreciated in the world. At the same time, you can get slandered by saying something that other people don't agree with. There's always a group of people that don't agree with what you're saying. Take for example Charlie Kirk. A lot of people don't agree with what he's saying, but some people do, and he got killed because people don't agree with it. Subjectively, people have an opinion, and that shouldn't matter. No one should bully each other for having their own opinion, because everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and that shouldn't matter.
People And these people need to pull their fucking fingers out and get a job. Yeah, that was really nasty, but look, you get the point. But the point I'm trying to make is that Isaac still tours nationally. He still uploads content. He still has a giant audience. He sells out heaps of shows. So unlike any traditional cancellation, he hasn't lost his platform. He's fucking grown it. And I think that comes with the territory for small content creators like myself. Once we find our audience, we'll do fine. But we've got to get through the algorithm first. And with that...
True, you know. Smaller YouTubers like me and Link here do find it hard to break out of the algorithm, you know, because obviously with these bigger YouTubers like MrBeast, for example, who pulls in millions of views per minute, it's kind of unfair for us to, you know, break out of the YouTube algorithm and find an audience that, you know, people enjoy. Like, recently I have found an audience, like, my recent videos have me getting, you know, good like ratios, you know. Like, recently my videos get between 5 to 2 likes, which is really good, because back in the day, I would like it to get even 1 like on a video.
There'll be a lot of angry, septum-pierced, blue-haired women. But on the topic of these left-wing people...
Blue hair woman. Reminds me of 2018 TikTok videos.
and the joke I made, like using my own example. These people can dish it out and slander people and slur people and say horrible things no matter what they want. But because they believe in left-wing ideologies, they're allowed to say whatever they want. People have reported some people are unhappy with the video because it doesn't agree with their ideology. You know what I do when I don't agree with someone's ideology in a video or the comments in their videos? I move on. Everyone deserves a voice. That's what...
True, yeah. It is weird because some people don't understand anymore. And it's kind of sad. Like, it really is. Like, people don't understand that everyone's entitled to their own opinion, you know? That's why if someone says, you know, for example, someone says Minecraft is better than Terraria, subjectively, I disagree with you. But fair enough if that's your opinion, you know? Obviously, as you know, as I got older, I kind of understand things a bit more better. Like back in the day, when I was like 15, if someone, you know, says that, you know, Minecraft is better than Terraria, I would slander them, you know? I would continue to write messages, you know, hateful comments, you know, tell them to kill themselves. No, I didn't actually do that, but you get what I mean, you know? And nowadays, if someone says, you know, I don't know, FNAF is better than Power Playtime, I disagree with you, but fair enough, that's your opinion. Obviously, with the DA Games allegation, you know, if you find Will Ryan a PDF file, then you're stupid.
Free speech is all about. But in this country, it's selective. There really is no longer right-wing anyone. You're either a left-wing activist, or you're just like the silent majority of us who just want to live our lives and not deal with these people. By the way, if me saying Happy Australia Day offends you and you're from Australia, fuck off. Mate.
Oh, it's so true. I actually saw this video in November of someone saying, what's the point of Remembrance Day in the UK? Oh my god, he got abused in the comments. And you know what? He deserves it, you know? He does deserve it, because some people out there deserve stuff better than other people, you know? Especially for war veterans as well. Like, obviously, with Remembrance Day, it's quite big on me. Obviously, I haven't lost anyone during World War II, but for me, when I think about World War II, I think about people, you know, the soldiers who sacrificed their lives for the greater good, and at the moment, that greater good is literally nothing at the moment. I saw this video on TikTok, and it was on the news as well, of this war veteran literally crying, because he literally said, like, what's the point of fighting anymore? Like, we fought for everything just for the UK to be a piece of shit, and all these people changing, and I kind of agree with him in a way. I mean, yes, it makes people happy because they are changing. At the same time, with, you know, the UK turning into a shithole at the moment, what was the point of fighting? You know, honestly, UK has changed quite a lot with other, you know, politicians, and obviously Parliament changing a lot, and our Prime Minister being an absolute grade A wanker. But apart from that, it is quite sad to see, you know, all this stuff happening. It kind of makes me think about, you know, Pride Month, you know. Why do Pride people get an entire month themselves, while the people who fought for our country only get a day to themselves? You know, it's kind of unfair, you know. Like I would rather, subjectively, I would rather have people who fought for our country than pride people, because honestly, people who fought for our country did a better job than what pride people have done. Yes, pride people have finally breached out. It takes a lot of confidence for pride people to say I'm gay, or I'm a lesbian, or I'm a trans. And with these war veterans, they go through harsh stuff just fighting for our country. If it wasn't for them, we would probably be speaking German right now, or we would probably even be here right now.
And just maybe hear me out. Maybe you're the problem. Anyway, I may make another video on this by the comments down below, because I want to hear your guys' opinions on examples of comedians that you like, or, what you guys think. Chuck it all in the comments, because I'd love to hear it. Anyway, this one...
But yeah, that's that. Honestly, this video is quite controversial. I may have said some stuff that people do disagree with, but speaking out nowadays it kind of takes a lot of bravery. It takes a lot of determination to speak out, and people don't like to speak out because they are afraid of what might happen. You might get struck by lightning by the other people, other pride people, and say, "Oh, we don't like you anymore. We're gonna cancel you. We're gonna, take out your channel. You ain't gonna get far on YouTube anymore. We're gonna come out and kill you." You see what I mean? Like, it's quite unfair if you can't speak out anymore, because if you do, you're gonna get backlash, and it's a shame, really. I don't know though, but I am sorry if I offend any of you. I mean, I'm just trying to be honest here. And remember, we are entitled to our own opinion. So if you don't agree with what I'm saying, that is fine. But if you do agree, good on you. But if you don't, that is fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So yeah, go check out Link Riley. He's a good friend on the channel, like I mentioned before, and he makes some pretty good videos. So go check him out. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, then of course subscribe and help us out a massive ton. I'm going to go back into bed because, quite frankly, I'm still quite ill, even though I am recovering quite well. So yeah, see you later. Bye!